You won't believe what she found in her neighbor's basement when she went to return his mail. And the worst part was not what she found. The worst part was realizing that he had been watching her through the wall for months, and that she had smiled at him every single morning on her way to work. Tonight, we have 3 true crime horror stories that will make you check every lock in your house before you go to bed. These are not supernatural. These are not paranormal. These are stories about the most terrifying predator that has ever existed. The humankind. The kind that smiles at you. The kind that knows your schedule. The kind that has already decided what they are going to do and is simply waiting for the right moment. Turn every light on, check every room, and whatever you do, do not read these stories alone. Story 1: The Good Neighbor. I want to tell you about the most dangerous lie we tell ourselves. The lie is this: I would know. I would know if something was wrong. I would know if the person next to me was dangerous. I would feel it. Some instinct would fire, some alarm would sound in the back of my mind, and I would know before it was too late. I believed this lie for 34 years. I stopped believing it on a Tuesday morning in March when I went to return my neighbor's mail and discovered what was in his basement. His name was David. I am using his real first name because he is in prison, and I am not afraid of him anymore, and I want you to understand that he was not a shadow or a silhouette or an abstraction. He was a real person with a real name who lived 12 feet from my front door for 2 years, and who I liked. I genuinely liked him. He was quiet. He was polite. He remembered my birthday. He watched my cat when I traveled for work. He was exactly the kind of neighbor you feel lucky to have. The morning it happened, I was heading to work early. His mail had been misdelivered to my box. A package, not large, addressed to him. I knocked on his door to drop it off. No answer. I knocked again. Nothing. I tried the door handle out of habit, the way you do when you are just going to leave something on the counter. And the door swung open. He had left it unlocked. I stepped inside just far enough to set the package down on his hallway table. I called his name. Silence. I was about to leave when I noticed the smell. I need you to understand something about that smell. If you have never encountered it, you do not have a reference point for it, and I cannot describe it to you in a way that will make you truly understand what it communicates to the human body on a level beneath language. Your brain identifies it before your conscious mind does. Something ancient and biological fires, and your body knows what it means before you do. I followed the smell to the basement door. I opened it. I am not going to describe what I saw at the bottom of those stairs in detail, because some things do not need to be described in full to be understood. What I will tell you is that David had not been as alone as I thought he was, and that whatever he had been doing in that basement, he had been doing it for a long time. I called the police from the sidewalk outside. My hands were shaking so badly I misdialed twice. Here is the twist that I have never been able to make peace with. When the police searched his house, they found, in a locked drawer in his bedroom, a notebook. In the notebook were names, 12 of them, dates beside each name, observations, schedules, times of arrival and departure, patterns of behavior, details that could only have been gathered through sustained careful watching over a long period of time. My name was on page 7. There were 3 months of entries about me. What time I left for work, what time I came home, whether I was alone, which lights I left on, which window I left cracked at night for air. He had been studying me the way you study something you are planning to do something about. The last entry about me was dated 4 days before I found what I found in his basement. It said simply, "Soon." The police told me I was lucky. They said it like it was a comfort. They said you were very lucky. I have thought about that word every single day since. Lucky. As if luck is something you can rely on. As if luck is something that will be there the next time. I still live in that neighborhood. Not in that building, not on that street, but close. People ask me why I didn't move further away, and I never have a good answer for them. The truth is that I stayed because leaving felt like admitting that the world is the kind of place where a man can smile at you every morning and write the word soon in a notebook about you, and there is nothing you can do about it except run. I refuse to run, but I check my locks now. Every single night, every single lock, every single window, without exception. And I have never again assumed that I would know. What do you think he had planned for her? And how many names on that list do you think never found out how close they came? The darkness between people we trust is deeper than any haunted house. And the next story proves that the person you least suspect is sometimes the person you should have suspected first. Story 2. The Rideshare. I drive for a rideshare company 3 nights a week. I want to be upfront about that, because everything that happened that night is connected to the specific vulnerability of that job. The fact that you are alone in a car with strangers in the dark, that you have agreed in advance to take them wherever they ask, that your name and your face and your license plate are all visible to them before you ever meet, and that none of that information flows in the other direction. You know nothing about who is getting into your car. Nothing except a first name and a star rating. The night it happened was a Saturday in November. Cold, rain on the windshield, the kind of night where the streets are empty by midnight and the city feels like it belongs to a different, darker version of itself. I got a ping at 12:47 in the morning. Pickup location was a bar in the downtown area I knew well, a regular stop on weekend nights, nothing unusual. The name on the account was Michael, 4.9 stars. I accepted the ride and pulled up outside. He got in the back seat. Normal looking. Mid-30s, dark jacket. He smelled like he had been drinking, but not heavily, the kind of drinking that loosens something in a person without removing their control. He said hello. I said hello. I pulled away from the curb and followed the GPS toward his destination, a residential address about 20 minutes away on the east side of the city. We drove in silence for a few minutes. Normal. I prefer quiet passengers late at night. Then he said something that I have replayed in my mind every day since. He said, "You have a good memory for faces, right?" I said I supposed I did. He said, "Good." Then he said, "I need you to remember mine." I looked at him in the rearview mirror. He was looking directly back at me. Not in an aggressive way, not in a threatening way, in a very calm, very serious, very deliberate way that was somehow more frightening than aggression would have been. He said, "I need you to remember my face because in about 10 minutes, you are going to pull over and let me out, and then you are going to call the police and give them my description and tell them where you dropped me off." He said, "Can you do that?" I said, "What?" He said it again, slower this time, every word clear and measured. "I need you to remember my face. I need you to pull over in 10 minutes and let me out. I need you to call the police and tell them exactly what I look like and exactly where you dropped me." I said, "Why?" He looked out the window for a moment. Then he looked back at me in the mirror and he said, "Because if you don't, there is going to be something very bad waiting for someone at the end of this address and nobody will know where to start looking." I pulled over immediately. Not in 10 minutes. Right then. I pulled to the curb and stopped the car and turned around and looked at him directly for the first time. He met my eyes and he said, "Thank you." And then he got out of the car. I called the police before he had walked half a block. I gave them his description. I gave them the destination address from the app. I gave them everything. The police went to that address. Inside, they found a man who had been planning something for a very long time. Evidence of surveillance, evidence of preparation, the kind of quiet, methodical planning that takes weeks and leaves traces everywhere once you know where to look. The man I had dropped off was never identified. The account he used was registered to a stolen identity. He was never found. He has never been found. The person at that address never knew how close it came. They still do not know. The police decided there was no reason to tell them about a threat that had been neutralized by an anonymous tip from a rideshare driver at 12:50 in the morning. I think about that every time I get a ping late at night. I think about a man who got into my car and trusted me with something I still do not fully understand, who used the last ride of the night to stop something that I cannot name and cannot quantify, but that the police took seriously enough to act on immediately. I think about who he was. I think about what he knew. I think about why he chose me. And I think about the fact that somewhere out there is a person going about their ordinary life who has no idea that a stranger in a rideshare car on a rainy November night is the reason they are still alive. What do you think the man in your car knew? And do you think he was the hunter or the hunted? One more story, the one that will stay with you longest, because this one did not end the way the others did. Story 3, the house on Delmar Street. My sister was the kind of person who noticed things, not in a dramatic way, not in the way of someone who performs intuition for attention, in the quiet, specific way of someone who is simply more present than other people, more attuned to the small signals that most of us filter out in the noise of daily life. She noticed when someone's voice didn't match their expression. She noticed when a room felt different than it had the day before. She noticed things that other people walked right past and filed away under nothing to worry about. She noticed something was wrong with the house on Delmar Street 3 weeks before anyone else did. She lived 2 doors down. She had lived on that street for 4 years. She knew her neighbors the way you know people you see every day without ever quite becoming friends. Well enough to wave, well enough to notice patterns, well enough to know when something has changed. The man who moved into the house on Delmar Street moved in quietly. A Tuesday in February, a small moving truck, no one helping him carry boxes. She noticed him because he never looked up. In 4 years of living on that street, she had never seen a new neighbor who did not at some point look up and take in the street, the houses, the neighborhood they had chosen. He kept his eyes down the entire time he was moving in. Every box, every trip from the truck to the front door, eyes down. She mentioned it to me that night on the phone. She said, "The new neighbor is strange." I said, "New neighbors are always strange at first." She said, "No, this is different." Over the following weeks, she kept noticing things. The house was always dark, not the way a house is dark when someone is at work, that particular empty darkness of a building with nobody in it. This was different. The curtains were drawn, but there was movement behind them. Someone was home. Someone was always home, but no lights were ever on. His car left at irregular hours, not the pattern of someone with a job or a routine. 2 in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, back by 6, the kind of hours that have no ordinary explanation. She started writing things down, dates, times, observations. She showed me the notebook on a Sunday afternoon 6 weeks after he had moved in. I told her she was being paranoid. I told her the man was probably just private. I told her to stop writing things down and focus on her own life. She said, "Something is wrong with that house." I told her she was being dramatic. 2 weeks later, a woman was reported missing from a neighborhood 12 miles away. A week after that, a second woman was reported missing from a neighborhood 8 miles in the other direction. The police had no leads, no connection between the 2 women, no suspects. My sister called me the night the second disappearance was reported on the news. She said, "It's him." I said, "You don't know that." She said, "I know that." She went to the police with her notebook. They listened to her politely. They took down her information. They told her they would look into it. They did not look into it. Not that day, not that week. On a Thursday morning, 3 weeks after my sister went to the police, she called me at 7 in the morning and said, "His car has been gone for 4 days. The house is empty. He's gone." The police searched the house on Delmar Street 11 days later following a tip from an unrelated source. I am not going to tell you what they found in that house, because I know what they found in that house. And there are things I carry with me now that I did not carry before, and I would not put them in you if I could help it. What I will tell you is that the tip that finally sent them there confirmed everything my sister had written in her notebook. Every observation, every date, every time. She had been right about all of it. The man who lived in the house on Delmar Street was never found. He is still out there. And my sister, who noticed something was wrong before anyone else did, who wrote it all down, who went to the police 6 weeks before they finally acted. She has moved 3 times since then. She does not stay anywhere for more than a year now. She sleeps with her lights on and her phone charged and a bag packed by the door. Because she knows something now that she did not know before she moved to that street. She knows that the man who lived in the house on Delmar Street had a notebook too, and that her name was in it. What do you think he would have done if she hadn't gone to the police when she did? And do you think he knows where she is now? Thank you for watching. 3 stories, 3 accounts of the most terrifying predator in the world. Not a ghost, not a demon, not something that goes bump in the night. A person, a perfectly ordinary-looking person who smiles at you and remembers your birthday and watches you from behind closed curtains and writes your name in a notebook. The man with the notebook who wrote soon. The stranger in the rideshare who knew something nobody else did. The man on Delmar Street who kept his eyes down the whole time he was moving in. They were all real, and they all looked completely normal. If these stories made you check your locks tonight, good. If they made you think about the people around you a little differently, good. That awareness might be the most important thing you take away from this channel. Leave a comment right now telling me which story got under your skin the most. We read every single one. And if something has happened to you, something you noticed that others dismissed, something that turned out to be exactly as wrong as you thought it was, leave it below. Your story might be the one that saves someone else. Like and subscribe for new horror stories every single week. Lock your doors, check your windows, and pay attention to the people around you. Because the most dangerous thing in the world is not the dark. It is what is hiding in plain sight inside it.